What's up, man?
How's it going?
It's going, man. So I want to talk about a little bit about what you do and what your passions are, and what we were talking about earlier about the Sunset Strip back in the day, and
Right.
like. And first of all, let's if you want to just describe, tell the listeners about what you do and what your passions are with the guitars and as a luthier, right, and all that stuff.
Right.
So.
Well, first of all, when I first started playing guitar, I always found that the guitar had too many flaws. That it was very difficult for me to when I was learning. There were too many stops, and then I had to get rid of all the stops in order for me to advance.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the classical guitar had a short neck, so I wanted a cutaway. Back in the day, the guitars didn't have cutaways. The classical guitars were, you couldn't think of something like that. But in the back of my mind, I always thought, what if I could add more frets and make it this way? So later on, it's like I got the fascination for the electric guitar. I'm 12 years old when this is happening, right? And one of my friends introduced me to the electric guitar for the first time. He made one. And I'm looking at it and I said, well, I guess I can make one too, right?
Yeah.
My dad was a carpenter as a hobby. He was actually a CPA, but in his spare time, he would be building things. So I assumed that everybody had the ability to build stuff because I grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
So I just got the tools and started carving away, and before I knew it, I made a Les Paul.
No
Right.
shit. Wow.
Right, and I made it out of a picture. I remember the album cover, the Peter Frampton Comes Alive, had the Les Paul. So I copied that, and that's the first guitar I made.
Was that the first Les Paul you saw?
That was the first one I saw.
Okay.
Right. So after that, it's like the guitar seems too simple, so I added a tremolo. So I bought a Bixby, put it on there, and I started messing with the Bixby. And then later again, I found that the guitar was again limited because I couldn't access the higher frets. So I kept carving away until I said, well, it's not the way to carve the guitar. At that time, I was 13, 14, but I did the carving in the back of the neck. Like most luthiers in those days, they would carve the top, make like this,
Right.
so that they would rest the hand like that. But I wanted to be able to put my hand straight, so I would carve it so that this part would fit in the pocket.
Yeah.
Right? So then when that was done, I go, okay, now I can play 24 frets and make things easier for me. Fast forward, 10 years later, right? 23, I come to California. And I see that the basic problems still exist in all the guitars. So I started working on people's guitars, just at random. They would come to my house and, hey, what can you do? We like what you did to your guitars. So that's how pretty much everything started. So I started doing things for friends, and then later on turned that into a business. Another 10 years passed before this happened, maybe. And it was Dino who put me on the spotlight.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He came in one day and he said he wanted some sort of inlay for one of his guitars for a friend he was going to give away. So I did that, and then before I knew it, people started calling me because he started referring me to people to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And basically everything I was doing for the guitar was to improve the instrument, make it better for the player. So I asked them, what do you want in the instrument? Because basically they didn't know, so I had to show them.
So it's kind of a combination of things you wanted as a guitarist and then whatever the client wanted.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because one of the things, I really love the low action, so I made the neck super straight all the time, right? And some people didn't like that. So I realized, okay, so
it's too smooth.
Exactly. So then they wanted the action a little higher. And then it was about that time when I started the UVA business, and then you showed up. You wanted a logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first guitar was the RG 7-string with the tremolo, which
Right.
I didn't use. You put the block in it, I think, right?
Right.
And then the inlay, and then I did the other 7-string with the fixed bridge, and then you did that flat black. Yeah, and that's still like we were talking about it earlier. We've been using that for 10 years. So
I'm glad. So then like I said, Dino put me on the spot, and then I went to work with him and during the Roadrunner United sessions. And the owner of the record of the studio, he said, "Why don't you work for me? I got all these people here. They need setups and lessons.
Ah,
They need a guitar lesson." So I started doing both. He would send me like guitar players to teach them some stuff, because at that time I think lead playing wasn't popular anymore. It was just like started to gain momentum again. So he said, like, why don't you teach some stuff, because these people don't really know. They don't have a point of reference anymore, because it's been 10 years since the last guitar player came out, like the Guitar Hero and stuff.
yeah.
So I started showing him stuff, and then between that and that, it's like he said, like Fernandez was looking for a master luthier to build their custom guitars. And at that time, Uva was like producing maybe like 1 or 2 guitars a month. It wasn't that much. And mostly my customers were like European death metal bands because of the designs that we had.
Nice.
Right. So I changed all that format, and then I didn't have time for Uva anymore. So I dedicated myself building these custom guitars for Fernandez, artist only, exclusively. And when Fernandez called it quit, which was I think 2013, I was surprised because we had like a lot of musicians going to Fernandez just because they knew that they could get what they wanted. Because not to impugn the other custom shops, but I was building stuff that they wanted with them in the room sometimes, right? And specifically, the size of the neck, dimensions they wanted, whether they want a fretboard made out of ebony, like you mentioned earlier, you wanted, right? And whatever they needed, I provided, so they came out happy. And I still see those guitars on the road. So after they told me that Fernando was no longer needing a custom shop, then I was like, well, what do I do next? And that's when I started getting the calls from the band, say, hey, do you want to go on the road with us? And I go, sure, it's just like a vacation for me.
So what was the first band you went out with?
Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Suicidal. That was I think it was the most fun I ever had, because it's a fun band. It's like all the guys are cool. They don't party, which is I was surprised to see that they're very professional. Right, everything they do is like they go on a stage, they perform, and then back to the hotel.
Oh, they're sober?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no drinking, no screwing around, none of that stuff.
How long was that tour?
Actually did like 3 or 4 tours with them.
Wow.
We went to Europe, we went to South America, all over the United States. I think we did 2 European tours. And
so on those tours, they hired you as guitar tech, or what was your?
Basically, it was like a stage manager. I had to do
stage
everything,
manager. Okay.
And slash assistant, whatever they needed at the time. So it was fun. It was fun. And when I was done with that, then I went back to set up the studio, because the studio needed attention, right? I'm still paying rent for the place. So it's like I'm spending like 10 months out of the year doing this, and I still have to pay the rent when I get back.
Right.
Right. So I decided not to do this too much, right? Because it really limits what I can. I mean, I still want to build guitars. Don't get me wrong. I love that. It's probably I love building the instruments more than I actually like playing them.
Yeah.
And then occasionally I run into my instruments. I call them my sons, because I saw them on the stage. I go, oh, that's one of mine. So we go like friends and we play with municipal waste. And I said, dude, how do you like that guitar? Because I didn't meet him when he requested that guitar built. He just sent me the specs, and he never talked to me on the phone. He just said, I want this, and that, with this color and all this hardware. So then he's telling me, this is my favorite guitar. It's like, I love the way he plays, he feels. So I'm glad that you said that, because I'm the guy who built it. And then he said, you did, oh yeah. And why didn't you tell me? I said, because I wanted to see the true, how you felt about the instrument. I didn't want to, say, oh, I made it so you can, just say nice things about it. But he still likes it. And even though there's no contract anymore with Fernandez, he still wants a second one built. So one of these days, I'm going to make the number 2 of the same guitar he's got.
Nice. And that's like I said, seeing those instruments still on the road. Like the Carcass still uses they call them the triturador, which means the grinder bass. That's his favorite bass. So I love the fact that he still plays that bass. After all these years. Yeah, man. I remember some of those designs you have. I haven't checked out recently if there's do you have a website up right now for no?
Not yet, because
No?
I'm still working on the prototypes,
Okay.
and I'm gonna have a couple of those. You know, like the ones I used to make back in the days.
Yeah, I was gonna say like there you had some gnarly designs, man. Like those 6-string basses, man. Those are gnarly designs for sure. So yeah, so you're gonna resurrect that brand.
Yeah, that's coming back. It's gonna be like I'm not gonna make the same mistake I made back then, because what I found out is like those are nice design, like you said, but it has a very limited market, because what I found out is like companies like BC Rich already have that. You know, they have cornered that market.
Yeah, it's very like the angles and the it's very nuanced and catered to the extreme metal kind of
Right.
bands, or you know the darker genres, right?
Right.
I mean, have you sold anything like those kind of designs to like a pop artist? You know
Never.
what I mean?
It was
See?
always
So it's-
a death metal band from Norway or Denmark. You know, it was never a request from the United States, except one band. Damn, I forgot the name. There's one Scorpio here that I'll get back on that name. Agne Rossi, I think is. Man, I hate it that I don't know the name right now. But he still uses that guitar. You know, he puts it on the website. You know, so this is my favorite guitar again. You know, it's like my custom. You know, put his name on the headstock like I did to all the custom guitars. So yeah, that's one that survived here in the States, still being played. And that one is gonna be like I'm gonna have the traditional guitar, because our motto back then was we're not gonna make Strats or Les Pauls or anything like that. We're gonna make something unique. And I found out that the hard way that in the United States people still love their Strats and Les Pauls.
yeah.
So that's the market that I wanted to acquire. And with the second coming of UVA instruments, or UVA guitars now, not instruments anymore, because that's the other thing, people, you know, couldn't make out what it was. They figured it was a fruit company because the logo has a grave.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you gotta maybe rebrand that logo a little bit. But so, because I remember you were making like violins and all kinds of like what other instruments were you doing? Because remember you had some violins. And,
we had the violins. Also, we had the basses, violins, electric guitars, and then I started the flamenco guitars. But that stopped before, because that's when Fernandez took over. I did the isolation caps. You know, the stereo iso caps, right? And there's a few of those around. Dino has one. Cynic, the band.
Cynic.
They have one, and then Logan, you know, he had one too, and then a bunch of other people that I can't remember. But I made them in such a way that the speakers actually could breathe, so it didn't sound like a box.
Right.
Right.
Muffled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now when I go to the sites, you know, I keep wondering who's making the stereo ones, because I was the only one making them, and there's another company doing it. And they're using the same approach I did back then. I ported the bottom portion of the speaker so they could breathe, so they can sound like that. So they're adopting that. So in a way, it's like everything that I ever did on the guitars, I find them in other guitars. Like these days, it's like it's been copied over and over. Like the scallop in the back of the neck, that was my idea from the very beginning. And the same thing with the round thing on the, because I didn't want to hit my hand on the sharp. So I made it round, right? So all that stuff has been copied left and right. Maybe I should take credit for that or not, but this has been since 1986, people, when I started doing this stuff. And also the 7-string guitar, the first guitar was built in 1986.
Wow.
And here in LA.
I was always wondering, because like, you know, when I got into the first 7-string guitar I saw was like that first Korn record, you know what I mean? But no, shit was before that. So what was like, what was the first what was the first 7-string guitar you saw? Like for what band was doing that?
Nobody.
No,
I was here in LA, and I was auditioning for several bands, and I showed up with a 7-string guitar. So then the bass players look at me like, what's that? You know? And I go, it's a 7-string guitar. And then they look at the last string and say, what kind of string is that? It's a bass string. Okay. And then they didn't know what to think of it. So I started playing, and my note was lower, and then they couldn't. I was like, you know, we try to do some jamming and stuff. I said, what do you put a 7th string over there? You know, that thing is not gonna, you know, it's not doing anything. I said, well, it does. It does something. You can make more chords. You can extend your range. And then a couple years later, Steve Vai shows up with a 7-string guitar. So I'm thinking, okay, he's got the 7-string now. So I made an 8-string after that.
What year did you make an 8-string?
The 8-string was in 1989.
No way.
Yeah, when my son was born. Because I got pictures with him.
So
with the guitar, so it's
So was it with an extra low string or extra high string?
An extra high string.
Oh, okay. So it was like a 7-string now with a higher right. A. Okay. Right. Wow. Yeah, man, it's crazy because it started out when I remember when the 7-string guitar is starting to become more mainstream after like those, the new metal bands got it out. I was like, there was like Korn and Fear Factory, like the bigger bands that like made it huge, right?
Right.
At least to my knowledge, like, are there any other bands that come to mind that like really broke the 7-string out to the mainstream that you can think of?
Let me see, Deftones.
Did they? Okay, yeah. But they're all like, I know Fear Factory. There was Fear Factory, Korn, and then the Limp Bizkit did some stuff with 7 strings. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it seemed like most people, no one was really very accepting of it at first. They're like, what's this? And then now there's like 8 strings are normal, and there's 9 strings, and there's like
But the problem with that these days, and it's like all these kids, they get their 8-string, but they only use the bottom portion of the guitar, and then the rest is just for looks.
Yeah. It's the whole gent movement, however you say it. I just don't know the proper way to say it. Gent, I don't know, but
degent, I think they call it degent.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It bothers me too because it's like the songs are it's a low F sharp or F or whatever they tune it to. But yeah, that definitely bothers me. It's like they have a nice, gorgeous 8-string, or some kids even have the 9-string, and that's just all in the first 5 frets of the lowest string are being utilized, or they're maybe they're doing power chords or whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, to me, it's like, why don't you just have a 6-string and tune it, with the lower strings, the lower gauge.
Exactly.
It's like, Max, for instance, he plays the ESP, the Viper. He only uses 4 strings. He doesn't bother to put the first and second string on the guitar. He just uses those 4. And that's it. So this should be the same with 7 or 8-string guitar players, because they're not using the higher string.
You know what you should do? You should go backwards. Make a 4-string guitar with just like a 4-string guitar with tuned to F, or a 3-string guitar, and just have it like the only just use the low 3 strings. Right? That'd be hilarious.
Why not? Right? Because but there's hope there. Because I'm working with this guy. His name is Kuni G. He's got this charity for kids. It's like he does these concerts at the Rainbow on once a month on Friday, and he brings all these kids to the studio first, and then rehearse songs like Pantera songs, Van Halen songs, and all that stuff. And these kids, they get on stage and they start playing, right? And unbelievably enough, these kids actually have talent. A lot of them, I got so much surprised because I saw the energy and the amount of talent that they have, something that I haven't seen in a long time. Because we were talking about the 80s, right? Okay, when I first came to LA in 1984, right? I had a tape recorder with me at all times because I knew this was the place where all major guitar players would come in. And I would go to the Guitar Center, right, and just walk around the guitar floor. And there were these amazing people from all over the world just playing, like shredding and doing all this kind of weird techniques and stuff.
You're talking Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard, right. So then it's like I keep walking and I just press record, just keep going, right? And then I go home and I see, okay, what are the parts? I start editing all the solos, and I say, wow, this is interesting. This has a interesting phrasing, vibrato, interesting arpeggio, and so on. So then I would go there and just get the best of that, and then go to the Guitar Center and do the same thing they were doing. And then there would be like a jam unity, they try to say who is the best and stuff like that. Guitar Wars at the Guitar Center. So that was then, right? Now you go to the Guitar Center and it's like you want to get out because you don't hear anything worth listening to.
I can't remember the last time I went to a Guitar Center. Honestly, I try to avoid it at all times. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like if I have to buy something, I usually do Sweetwater. I go there when I need strings, so I go in and get out quickly. That's like the only reason why I'll go to a Guitar Center. But yeah, but you're right though, because it's pretty unbearable in there. Like with all the 12 to 15 people just playing random crap.
Random crap.
Yeah.
So
back in the day, you captured random customers just shredding, and you just analyzed everyone's solo, and you cut it up on your tape recorder, and you just kind of just analyzed what was going on, and then you started jamming out. When next time you go in there, you jam some similar stuff and just try to attract those kind of players.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And then the second part was that GIT was on the second floor of the wax museum, right? So I would go in there during the day and just do a sitting, with and a lot of times I found Frank Gambale doing stuff, and I would just sit there with him and watch him play.
No way.
Right. And at the time, the students were telling me, this guy is making an album now. He's gonna be, he's gonna be producing an album. He's got a budget and everything. You gotta watch him. He's really cool. He was doing all the really, kind of baking and stuff like that. So at that time, I was pretty much picking up everything just with watching him one time. Okay, he did this. Okay, that's fine. And all the other players, it's like in the same room. They were all probably Paul Gilbert was there at the time. It's like. I don't know. It's like all these shredders that came out from the 80s that went to MI. GIT was called it back then, and it was just so that now you can't go there and do a sit-in because they have they check for ID and badges and all the stuff. Mm-hmm. But back then I would just walk upstairs and just go to the rooms and sit and be like one of the students. Because I wanted to see how they taught music here in the States. It was different from where I came from. Like the formal education, you start with theory and then move on to harmony in the later years and all that stuff. All the boring stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I went to GIT when it was, let's see, what year was it? I went in 2004, and it was interesting. Like, I learned a lot, but looking back, it's, I mean, if I were to go today, if I had to make the decision today to go, if I was starting over, I wouldn't, because it's, now, I mean, all that stuff I learned, now you can learn it on the internet. You can just you can go find all that information on YouTube. You just have to have that drive and that persistence to teach yourself how to learn and to be, have that work ethic and just be disciplined. But yeah, I mean, I don't think if I had to redo it, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have just started working right away.
Well, you got to remember also that back in those days, most places when you needed to get a job, they wanted some sort of certification, right?
Yeah. Depending on what job you're looking for, but you're right. I mean, I also did I did RIT as well. I did the engineering program after GIT, so I was there for like 2 years, and they had internship programs where they'll throw you out into a local Hollywood studio as an intern, and I interned at 3 different studios. And
do you do the runner?
I did. I was a runner at Paramount Recording on Santa Monica Boulevard, and it was brutal. I also was an intern for a little bit at Conway, and there was another spot. They don't exist anymore. Do you know where the Crossroads area is on Hollywood? Yeah, there was a studio in there. It's a different spot now. Back in the day, it was called Private Island Tracks.
The 666 corner, I call it, because it's 6660,
Yeah, where that giant,
Planet.
Where that is. But yeah, I was a intern and runner there, and I went through all that, all the hazing and that the brutal stuff they make you do. You know what I mean? I went through all that, but yeah, I mean they they do it. It's like, oh, you're in school. They do it with the school credit thing. But yeah, I mean, I probably would have just got out into the industry as soon as possible. But yeah, now it doesn't really matter. From my experience, like nobody really cares if you have a music degree or not. I mean, depending on what kind of job you're looking for. But if you want to be a professional session musician, or if you want to be an audio engineer or mixer, or producer, or whatever, nobody really cares if you have a degree. It's just about your personality, how good you are, your work ethic, your etiquette. At least from my experience. But yeah. What were we talking about? Yeah. So 80s Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
Let's tell me about that, because I wasn't around for that shit, obviously.
But it's like when I got here, it was the time where all the posters were on every other corner, like Guns N' Roses, right? It was then something that most people don't know back then, like Guns N' Roses, and was because LA Guns N' Roses, at one point they were together. That's the Guns and the Roses, because Tracy Gunn and Axl Rose, Guns and Roses. And Warren was like breaking into the scene, They had that slogan In and Out has, like quality you can taste, right? But they use it in a sexual way. And they were all like, I remember they were all flat broke. They were all living with their girlfriends and, and these really, really like poor conditions. I mean, I used to go to the Rainbow. Then after they had an after party, and we go hang out with these guys. And it was like in a small apartment. It's like 10 people in there, And a lot of these people later on, they were in big bands. It's like, oh yeah, I know these guys, Yeah. And I used to know just about everybody, because I met them at the Rainbow.
Yeah.
Right before they made it, into stardom.
So, like, really quick, when you're looking, like, what were some of the most memorable shows for you, like in that time? Like, which ones are just stood out to you? Like, which bands?
There was one band that made an impact to me. It was because that was the first band I saw in the Strip. It was Lion, right? They were recording that Dangerous Attraction, and it sounded a lot like the Dio recordings. To me, it's like, wow, so this would be a great Dio, music. You just got to replace the vocals.
Interesting. Did you ever see Trix? Do you remember them?
I remember Trix.
Oh yeah. Brian, the guitarist, he's a good friend and client of mine. He has a new project now called The Imagination, which I did some work for him on those songs. But yeah, he was showing me like some of the old stuff, and like I was just looking at all those pictures of them back in the day. But yeah, it was like some of those hair metal bands, man. Stuff's it's pretty crazy looking back on that. Well,
remember what I said about Lion, right? And I said that would be Dio music, perfect. Yeah. But the guitar player ended up playing in Dio.
Okay.
There you go.
So that was the one for you?
Yeah.
Lion.
That was it. Lion.
Wow. Did you ever see when like Cold Chamber and Korn were playing like down at like did you ever check out the Coconut Teaser?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Zeros used to be like regular band at the Coconut Teaser.
What band?
It was called the Zeros.
Zeros?
Yeah, ask anybody about the Zeros.
What kind of
so like metal punk.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I missed out on all that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it was fun every night. It wasn't just the weekends. Like I mentioned before, the Key Club was called Gazares back then. So Bill Gazares and the owner of the Rainbow, Mike, they would sit on the front of the Rainbow and they would greet people, say hi to everybody, be really nice to everybody, and invite them to the club. Hey, go check out this new band over there, and I go, yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah, good. Brunette, great band. And all these people sitting on the wall, right? And there was like a brotherhood and sisterhood of musicians. We're all like a collective, And for some reason, the metal women were some of the most beautiful women at the time.
The metal women?
Metal women, right? So that was the thing, you know, it attracted audiences because every metal concert you went to, you knew there were going to be a lot of beautiful women.
Yeah.
Right? And it was always that way. You know, if you watch these videos, right, like Marley Crew doing shooting of the Sunset Strip, cruising on a limo, you know, all the stuff is actually what was happening.
Wow.
You know, they didn't need to get models to. That was actually, you know, the people from the strip.
Wow.
You know, so
Yeah.
they brought them in. I said, "You want to shoot a video? Yeah, sure." You know, it's like they just picked up people randomly from the street.
Just grabbed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was.
Now you got to hire them and pay them a bunch of money
them,
to be in the video for
Yeah.
like 30 seconds. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, I wanted to bring this up. Sorry to change the subject, but that drum kit you did for Jordan
Oh yeah.
came out fucking great. I wanted to mention that because like it's cool because you know, not only do you do guitars and all that, you can pretty much do any kind of like custom job like that. That's pretty rad. Like,
Oh, thanks.
yeah, that kit looks awesome, man. Like so it's like I forgot the brand of the kit. He told me once, but I forgot what brand it is. But yeah, all flat black. I think it's like, was it 4 or 5 toms? Can't remember.
5 toms and 1 kick.
Okay, well, it was 2. It was 2 kicks.
2 kicks. Oh yeah, right.
2 kicks,
yeah.
and then maybe it was 4 toms. But anyway,
Yeah,
that man, it came out really good. It looks really really sick. Just pure flat black doom metal kit. So good job on that.
Thanks.
So, yeah, before we wrap it up, is there anything like you wanna anything you wanna plug, or like you want to mention like the new website's gonna come out soon, so people can check it out?
Oh yeah, and also like I told you about this charity for the kids. I'd like people to pay attention because, like I said, a lot of newcomers are like absolutely incredible players, you know. And I'm looking forward to working with them every Friday, once a month. It's called Kids Rock Studio.
Okay.
And it's hosted by Scooney G. And like I said, you know, I'm really happy that he's doing this because nobody else is. You know, bringing all these kids to the stage to showcase their talent. And like I said, you know, it's like I'm so happy because I can see that there's hope for this new generation of musicians. Because I can see it, it's like I've never seen it before. You know, it's like this 16-year-old kid. His name is Austin Thompson, and he's like a shredder. Like, you know, I've never seen that kind of fury in a young kid before. You know, he's like doing all this Pantera stuff, like, no burnout. It's like incredible. And I'm making him a custom guitar.
Nice.
So that he can, you know, showcase his true, you know, abilities.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and thanks for sharing about what you do. And yeah, I appreciate it, man.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers.